we are joined with a very special guest, former ESPN broadcaster and current Fox Sports and NBC Chicago broadcaster, Adam Amin. Adam, thank you so much for joining us. How are you today?
Doing great, boys. How are you doing?
We have a special guest in the house. We've got the man in charge, University of Louisiana Director of Athletics, Dr. Brian Maggard. Dr. Maggard, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great.
And we are now joined by the managing editor of D1 Baseball, Mr. Kendall Rogers.
Introducing Mr. Nick Domingue to the Rage and Review podcast. A lot of you guys may know him as the person who invented the phrase, and the answer is not Ron Guidry.
Man, I tell you what, but these candied yams with like the marshmallows in it is about the most unappealing looking gelatinous shaws that I've ever seen.
I actually kind of like I really like good cinnamon marshmallow yams.
You like the kid? Are you 60? No, really?
We've got Lane Johnson here. Lane's going to be part of the Region Review crew. He's going to do a lot of background work for us. He's going to help us with our production. Lane, welcome aboard, buddy. How you doing?
Get ready. Buckle up. It's going to be a lot of fun. We got a lot of things on the pipeline, and can't wait to share it and have a good time with you guys on it.
Yeah, prepare yourselves. It's gonna
get
be
ready.
A lot of fun.
I'm just letting every Cajun Nation know and all our listeners know. Get ready.
The Ragin' Cajuns will be a source of pride for this university, for the alumni, fans, and donors as we achieve success in the classroom, in the competitive arena, and in the community.
It's about to get really fun.
We're looking for dudes that will stand up. Well, Coach, let me tell you today, I'm here and I'm ready to stand up. And I challenge you, Ragin' Cajun Nation, to stand up with us. Stand up with us. Let's lock hand in hand and let's walk through the gates of Omaha.
Hey, I love y'all boys. Let's grind every day starting today. Let's do it. Y'all ready? Oh, Lord. Ready. Who's that team ready? Who's that team ready? Yes, sir.
I got one thing to say right here. Cajuns win!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into Ragin' Review. Your boy Nick along with Lane this evening with lots of content to bring you on this beautiful Thursday night. Before we get started, Lane, what's going on, man? How are you doing?
Pretty good. How about yourself?
Not too bad. It was a pretty good day, man. We got to spend some time with head coach of the Texas State Bobcats, Stephen Trout. We'll get to that in just a second. Before we do, we want to give a little bit of a shout out to our sponsors, the folks who make this, this live stream happen every week. Dr. Brett Venable with Recovery Chiromed, Eat Lafayette, who brings our Lanyap section every week. Lafayette Roofing, let's try that again. Lafayette Roofing with Darren Domingue and team, and then also Ragin' Hydration, fine sponsors of Ragin' Review. Lane, getting to meet with Stephen Trout, it was really cool. He, again, seems like one of those coaches that are really laid back, really easy to talk to, and hard to hate the other team once you meet him. Your thoughts about how things went with him earlier today?
Yeah, I found it pretty cool that like he had just gotten off the bus in Lafayette and he hopped on the phone with us and had about a 20-minute interview. So it was really cool.
Yeah, it was kind of funny. I told him
time out of his day.
He was on the bus when he first called, and I said, "Coach, you want to get off the bus, get unloaded, kind of take a breath before?" He said, "Yeah, that'd be great." He was ready to talk to us on the bus, but you could kind of hear him unpacking his bags. He was trying to get ready. I know they had BP probably in practice after and then dinner, but it was really good. So we'll get to that right now. Once we're done with it, Lane will come back and give our thoughts on the interview and then also look ahead to Texas State coming up this weekend. But before we get to all of that, let's go ahead and meet the head coach of Texas State. Welcome into Rage and Review, head coach of the Texas State Bobcats, Stephen Trout. Coach Trout, pleasure to have you on here and an honor to get to interview you today. How are you, man?
Oh, we're doing great. Had a good bus trip over to Lafayette and excited for the weekend.
Fantastic. Well, we're going to ask you what you're eating later, but before we get to all of that, we do want to start. Let's start from the beginning because a lot of our listeners might be new to Coach Trout and Texas State. Of course, you had a very storied career. I believe you played at TCU under Coach Slosh. Of course, 2009, or you were a volunteer assistant at Texas State in 2009. You've been at Houston, Texarkana. You've been kind of all around the world and then coming back to Texas State in 2016 and taking over in 2020 during that COVID year. Let's just talk about first, taking over as head coach during 2020 during COVID. What was that like, kind of transitioning the program during a weird time in America?
Yeah, you feel like you're hopefully prepared as everything, being the head coach for the first time, and you thought through, strategies and personnel and all the above, and then boom, this thing hits you, and there's no game plan or a book you can read to figure that one out. So it was a day by day, and obviously a big curveball in the first year. I think 14-4, and getting off to a good start, about to head into conference. So exciting, yeah. The world turned a different way, and so we handled it the best we could, and was trying to be there for our players and all the above. And so yeah, what a career that we talk about all the time, and especially my wife, and we had a 3-year-old at the time, and so it was crazy times for all of us, but we got through it, and here we are.
Yeah, welcome to head coaching in the SBC in 2020. That must have been a fun time, man.
Exactly.
Now, look, speaking of coaching, Coach David Pierce joined you guys back in August, and I can only imagine how much of a huge addition he was to your staff. Of course, he's now at Rice, and I think, we kind of all expected him to move on to a bigger job one day. But talk about Coach Pierce being on your staff during that short amount of time. I am sure he gave you guys some amazing insight into the game of baseball.
Yeah, it was outstanding. I didn't, besides competing against him and talking to him pre every once in a while, I didn't really have a great relationship with him as far as just knowing him a ton. But I was respecting him like crazy for what he did in his career as a coach, as assistant, and then Sam to Tulane, and obviously at Texas. And so I was actually calling him that summer to talk to a couple guys for my third assistant spot, and I just checked on him a little bit. Hey man, how are you doing? Right? And then it kind of evolved into the job we created for him, and it was as good as I could imagine it going any smoother. He actually for the first 2 months was my third assistant because my hitting guy was still with the Minnesota Twins, and then he hopped into his role that he finished in. And so yeah, it's just from the day of practice ideas to thoughts on the personnel, and just bouncing ideas off of him all the time, and hopefully he learned some from us as well. But it was a great relationship. And then when I saw this thing happening, I thought it was a no-brainer for him to go back to where he built that place with Coach Graham, and to be a head coach again. And definitely, I think part of coming here, he gave him that fire. He didn't know exactly what he wanted to do, but I think once he came back here, he knew, I want to go be a head coach again. And I think it just worked out perfect and can really full circle to head back to Rice.
Like you said, man, following in the footsteps of Wayne Graham at Rice ain't such a bad gig. So I think he's going to do just well there.
Absolutely.
Let's turn over to this season and look, man. All of your SBC brethren. I know for sure we were pulling for you guys against the Longhorns, and you've battled them over the last few years. I think you have a 4-game win streak against the Longhorns. You're beating up on Texas A&M when they were ranked number 1. So I guess my question to you is, You know, I've been involved in college baseball since '97, and I've kind of seen things change along the way where maybe midweek games used to just be a midweek game, but now there seems to be a little more emphasis on it, especially on a national level when there's perception and getting into regionals and such. Talk to us a little bit about scheduling those midweek games and especially getting huge wins over A&M and the Longhorns.
Yeah, as the beauty of where we live, and South Central Texas, we've got a lot of really good programs right around us, so we don't have to go very far, to play our games. We go down to Rio Grande Valley to play Coach Matlock, 'cause he's a buddy of mine, which that's about 4 hours. That's the farthest we definitely go. But of course around us, you got Texas, you got UTSA, Baylor right up the road, over to A&M, and so it's a phenomenal place to play midweek games because you have programs around you. And it just continues to help with RPI. All those teams are going to be really, really highly ranked in the RPI. And they're just going to be quality teams you're trying to beat. So for us, it's kind of that schedule's not made for you, but it's easy to find those games and make it work out with your travel and not trying to exhaust your guys. And so, but yeah, I think to go be an at-large team, you got to go win on Tuesdays. And as we tell our team, every game's the most important game because it's the next one, and it could be the game to get you into or get you out of one. And so, there's times where I think, maybe if your RPI is too high, you concentrate more on the weekends. But, we go to it heading, hey, we're trying to win every game we're playing, and on deck to go win that one, and then we get to the next one. So they're fun battles. This is the first time playing Coach Slosh, who's my head coach over at TCU at Texas, and so that was a fun one. In Austin. And so, it was a good night for the Bobcats.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that question before you go, Lane. Coach Schloss, I mean, you played for him at TCU, right? So is there a little bit more in that win or in that game? And especially, I mean, I'm assuming for your players, in-state opponent, they're going to be hyped up. But for you, kind of going against your former mentor, that's got to be something, right?
Yeah, it's as we say it all the time. When you play friends, you play mentors. It sounds really fun. Like, yeah, I can't wait to go play them. And it's not as fun when you look across. You're like, hey, I care about that guy over there, right? And so, it's not as fun. Of course, as he'll tell you the same thing. When we shake hands, I want to be the one on top and the one that wins the battle. But it is always a little different when you look over there and it's a buddy of yours, or like I said, a coach that coached you or coached with you. Just because obviously you got a personal relationship with him, but yeah, no, he's been fantastic to me and got to play for him for 2 years at TCU, and then pretty much every stop I've had along the way or any decision I had to make, with my personal life and coaching life, that guy gets a call from me because he's as good as it gets to it in college baseball. So definitely still bounce a lot of ideas off of him, even some things within our team and. Still practice ideas or rules or whatever it might be. And so, he's been a great mentor for myself and friend myself.
Coach, you guys started 6-2 the season with wins over ranked Oklahoma State and Texas A&M when they were number 1, but seemed to have struggled a bit lately, losing series to Campbell, App State, and Coastal. Has it been more of a bullpen issue or just not stretching together timely hits, or is there something else that fans may not see?
Yeah, it's a little bit of everything. I feel like we're trending in the right direction. If you look at our opening couple weekend rotations, or our rotations completely different heading into this weekend, and so I feel better about our starting pitching. We got a couple really dynamic bullpen arms. We're trying to get more arms that are valuable and getting outs out of the bullpen as well. And then offensively, we've been. I know every team gets hurt, but we've been extremely hurt this year, and it's not an excuse, it's not a crutch, but it's just the realization of we've had 4 starters out majority of the year on offense, and so we've got new guys in our program and young guys in our program that are stepping up, and guys like Dawson Park, who he started a lot for us as a freshman and is really playing well right now, and part of that's because of getting his opportunity probably more than we might have thought, and so we've been battling through it, and it seems like we get a couple guys back and then we lose a couple guys, but that's the definition of a team and definition of getting that going. So the one thing we've done pretty good job of all year long is playing defense. It was really high level at the start of the year and still playing pretty good defense for us. And so, but yeah, we're just trying to kind of change our style a little bit on offense of what we were originally hoping to be. I think part of that's just our personnel. But like I said, our starting pitching has been better. We've got some key bullpen arms, and we just got to find ways to scratch runs on offense. So I really like our team. They're working like crazy to get there, and but a lot of that's had to do with all of the injury and the personnel not being available as well.
Speaking of your offense, Chase Moore and Ryan Faber are two of your guys that Cajun fans probably remember well, and they've been mainstays in your offense. And they're guys you count on quite a bit. What does that say about their leadership on the team with how they've performed and how they get guys together?
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. They're guys that we lean on a lot of not just performing on the field, but also leading this team. Obviously, being in the infield and hitting at the top of the order and understanding just how we do things inside of our program. They've been outstanding, and so both of them have pretty much started since day one their freshman year. Chase was a couple weeks into it because he had an arm injury, but outside of that, he's played every day. Both of them has as a Bobcat. So those guys know what I'm thinking. They know what I need and know what our team need, and they work hard and they get after it, right? So their teammates respect them. They know they're great players, but they're great leaders as well. So definitely very valuable to have those guys in there on the infield and in the middle of the order to carry our team.
Yeah, we want to be respectful of your time, Coach, so we only have a couple more questions left. But I did want to ask you, Valentin, Tovar, and Tier, weekend starters against Coastal. Obviously, they're a different look. I mean, Coastal, to me, one of the elite teams in the Sun Belt. Obviously, Louisiana is going to give you a good run. But are we looking for that same rotation this weekend, or can we expect something different?
Yeah, we're going to stay with the same rotation. So it'll be the same one, and all three of those guys have thrown the ball well for us, and still trying to the biggest key is they've given us innings, and they give us a lot of times 5 to 7 innings, which obviously, like we talked about earlier, limits how many times you got to go to your bullpen, which is the key. And so those guys pitched the ball well. They threw the ball actually well against Coastal last weekend, even though we lost 2 out of 3. I think one of them was a 1-0 game that we scored in the bottom of the 8th, Tovar's game, and he didn't get the win, but definitely deserved it. So, you'll see the same 3 guys row out there.
And some of the players, whether it be pitchers, hitters, Cajuns should be aware of this weekend. More probably on the offensive side. Who should we be on the lookout at the plate this weekend for the Bobcats?
Yeah, I mean, Ian Collier's leading our team in hitting right now, and so he's the guy that hit the big home run on Tuesday night against Texas, and so he's got some power. I know the wind should be blowing in for a couple of days, but he's got a lot of strength. He's a catcher for us and can let the barrel go. And then, like I said, Dawson Park's probably the guy that's he's probably been our other hottest hitter over the last couple of weeks, and really hot. We moved him up to the 2-hole on Tuesday night. I'm not for sure exactly where he hit tomorrow night, but he's a fantastic infielder. The beauty of our team right now is our infield. It's 4 shortstops with Mora, Farber, Park, and then Justin Voss has been playing first base, and those are 4 shortstops that we all recruited that now they're playing our entire infield. So that's probably why our defense is really good, is because we got 4 shortstops out there running around, making plays. But those are probably the 2 names on the offensive side. And then, like I talked about, our 2 back-end guys, Carson Laws, big fastball, really good breaking ball, and then Matthew Tippy, same thing, a really good fastball and a really good breaking ball. Those guys have been, really key for us on the backside.
Coach, the Cajuns and the Bobcats have become quite the rivalry since you've become the head coach, and most of the games have been pretty close. How do you and your team view the series and the rivalry?
Yeah, it's been crazy. I've known Coach Daggs for a long time. Obviously, he was the head coach at Texarkana College. I was getting recruited there partially because my Legion team played at the same field. So I've known Coach Daggs always till that time. And actually, when I was entering in, I think he had left the year before that. So I've known him all the way since my days at Texarkana, and so I've known that relationship. But yeah, it's been a great battle. It's kind of been different. Felt like early the first couple of years we won the series or swept the series, and then obviously they've had a good run the last couple of years against us, and so it's kind of flipped. So yeah, we're definitely hungry to go get it. It's always a great battle. Everybody asks, what's your favorite place to go play, and this is always my favorite town to come to. I love battling in the ballpark and with the great fan base and getting fed after the game and the good Cajun food. I mean, I enjoy this trip. And so obviously I enjoyed a lot more after we win games, but yeah, there's been some great battles over the years and a ton of respect for Matt and his program.
So as we wrap this up, I'm glad you said that, Coach, because that is one of the questions, actually one of the two questions I have left for you. You know, playing at the Teague in Lafayette, tough environment. We have Section A. They give the players hell all game, man. You know that. They're going to ride your pitcher. They're going to ride all the games. But at the end of the day, you get to walk down to the Cajun Cooking Club and enjoy some food, and we all, you know, share bread together. Talk about what it's like coming to Lafayette, playing in that environment. Do you guys really, I'm sure you appreciate it, but kind of what do you tell your guys to expect when coming to Lafayette?
Yeah, I do. You know, I think it's outstanding when you play games and there's multiple thousands in the stands. That's awesome. That's what it's about. When you're playing games and there's 100 in the stands, that's not as fun to get up for. And so, I appreciate it. I appreciate the trash talk, as we see all the time. They're going to talk trash to you and then they're going to feed you. And I think it's outstanding. So it's fun, and they do it the right way too. It's not when I say hostile, you're not getting cussed at or anything crazy. It's good that they know the game of baseball. They get after it. They cheer on their team, and they create a lot of energy. And they get after you as well too. If I send a guy home and get him thrown out, they let you know about it. But at the end, like you said, we break bread. They give us unbelievable food, and you go get after it. So you're going to get a great crowd and some great energy. So these are the games you don't have to get up for because the crowd's doing that for you.
You know, we had Skylar Mead on a couple weeks ago when we played Troy, and he had a terrible answer to the last question, which was, what do you look forward to eating in Lafayette? And he said Chipotle. And I probably, dude, I almost lost my shit on him. I'm like, dude, Chipotle, like you're coming to Cajun country, man.
No doubt.
So please, Coach Trout, give us a better answer. When you come to Lafayette, what are you looking forward to eating? If it's boudin, if it's crawfish, what is it? What do you look most forward to when you come to Lafayette?
Definitely the jambalaya. I'm
Okay.
a big jambalaya guy, and we normally get that from the cooking club as well. And then I've hit a couple of the restaurants around town. I've had I forget the restaurant downtown with the great po' boys. I've stopped there a couple of times and grabbed those throughout the day, and then stopped at a couple of places at night. But love shrimp, love a lot of Cajun food, a lot of seafood, but definitely the jambalaya. And then definitely we'll go find some form of shrimp or some oysters or something like that to sit down and enjoy it.
Are you a raw oyster or charbroiled oyster kind of guy? Just wondering.
I've done both. If I had my pick, definitely probably more the cook. What do they call it when they put all the cheese and everything on there?
The good stuff is what it is.
Whatever it is usually I do it, but I can do the raw oysters too.
It's oysters Rockefeller.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. So yep. I can do all of them.
All right, Coach. Well, I appreciate you taking the time. I know you're trying to unpack and get your guys to the field, get some BP in, but appreciate it. Thank you for joining us, and man, we wish you the best this weekend. Obviously, we hope the Cajuns win, but nobody gets hurt. It's a good series, and we wish you the best going forward.
No doubt about it, guys. If I need something else, let me know, and appreciate you having me on.
Thanks, Coach. I appreciate you, man. Take care, man. What a great opportunity to meet with another quality Sunbelt Conference coach. Man, Coach Trout was cool. Lane, I know, and by the way, thank you for getting a lot of those questions out because, we all have busy schedules. I had to work today, but that was a lot of fun. Enjoyed the visit with him, and I think it'll be a good series this weekend.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Like I mentioned in one of the questions, the series between the Cajuns and the Bobcats has been close as of late. And I think we have like a 5-6 game win streak against them, maybe a little bit bigger. But it's definitely a fun series to want to be at for sure. And I know that so far every coach that we've interviewed has enjoyed coming to Lafayette and they're used to the environment. So that's always cool to see.
Yeah, definitely. And he gave a better answer about food than Skylar Mead. So I definitely credit him for that. Looking at the Bobcats on paper and kind of watching a few games this season, especially with how, and look, I don't know that we have any marquee games that we've won like Texas State has, because they, of course, beat A&M, they beat Texas. But the one thing that looks a lot alike is just the approach at the plate, the batting averages, the ERAs, the walks from pitching. A lot of it looks alike. When you're talking about, let me go ahead and share this real quick because I want to at least share what I'm looking at so that you guys have an idea of what it is I'm talking about. But when you look at their offensive production, Ryan Farber is up there. He's batting 305. But he's really, outside of Collier, we're also going to see this weekend. And I'm not sure we're going to see Garza because I don't think he's scheduled to play. He's only had 2 starts this season. But if you look outside of Farber and Collier, they're batting around, high to mid 200s. And as a team, they're batting 248. When you go to the Cajuns baseball side of things, look at what we have here. We've got Connor Higgs batting 356. You got Galt that's now, gotten his batting average up to 323. And outside of he and Hempworth, we only got 3 batters batting in the 300s. We're batting as a team 254. So you got a team in Louisiana batting 254. You've got a team in Texas State batting 248. They're a lot alike, not just statistically, but I feel like their approach at the plate can be a little frustrating for both of those teams, and I'm sure for both of those coaches. As far as on the mound, again, very, very alike. Louisiana ERA is around 6. So is Texas State. They give up a lot of free bases on the mound, as do we. But again, you're going to face their Friday night starter in Alex Valentin this weekend. And he's got a 3.7 ERA. He's 4-1 on the season. He's given up 20 walks and has 31 strikeouts. So he is a strikeout pitcher. But look, if I'm being honest, Lane, he's going to be a tough hand to deal with. But at the same time, you also have Simo on the mound this Friday night. I'm taking Simo ahead of anybody in this league. You got to think we have the edge a little bit this weekend when going into it on Friday night. But again, our bats have to show up. And I think Texas State is, if they're on a podcast right now, saying the exact same thing. Our bats have to show up and our pitchers have to do their job. So your thoughts on the upcoming series with Texas State starting tomorrow night?
Yeah, speaking of Valentin, he finished the game against Texas. I want to say he pitched like 2 innings. So it's probably the 8th and the 9th inning. But he was able to shut him down. So I don't know how many pitches he had, but being able to come back on Friday is probably a good thing for them because I didn't really take a look at their bullpen arms, but I can't imagine they're that great because of all the walks and everything. But I feel like we definitely have an advantage pitching wise, especially on Friday night. I'm not sure who we're going to pitch on Saturday at this point, but I believe Tillett is your Sunday guy. I think he solidified that.
It's got to be Tillett, man. Yeah, it's got to be Tillett.
Unless they move him to Saturday, but I doubt it.
Yeah, I don't think at this point in the season. I think if you get another solid starter, that might be an option. But man, you like coming back with him on Sunday, especially when you're in a position to win a series. You expect to win on Friday with Simo. But again, you look at offensive production. What will we do Friday night? We don't know.
Yeah, it's
we
been
don't know what that's going to look like.
Hell in a handbasket with these pitchers lately, or these batters lately. You just never know if they're going to hit 15 hits or get 2 or 3 hits.
You really don't know. Yeah,
and then
totally
the
agree.
pitching, the bullpen pitching is where we have our big issues. Especially last night was
not
horrible to sit through. I sat through all 9 innings. I'm like, why am I even here? Like I hadn't seen pitching that bad since like earlier in the season when we were just getting our legs ready. But it definitely wasn't fun to watch for sure. And just watching them give up, 15, 16 hits and 8 to 9 walks. It was just not a good time.
Hard to watch. Our pitching has given up 36 home runs on the season. Texas State, again, a lot like us. We've hit 25 homers on the season. They've hit 21. I don't think they're going to be a power hitting ball club, especially in the Teague. And you have to think back. A couple years ago, Texas State was a club when you went into San Marcos, you had to worry about the ball carrying there. And it seems like this year that is not the type of ball club that they put together with only 21 homers on the season. You expect from them probably double that as the season goes on. But again, it's the more you look at the stats, the more you look at game film, the more you look at the way they play the game, a lot like us. I will tell you, though, again, they went into Texas, they went into College Station and beat ranked teams on the road. We did not do that.
And granted, Texas A&M's not great this year, but at the time, they were number one.
Yeah, and but again, when you go into a team that is ranked on the road against them, do you think we would have won that game? No. I don't have confidence that we would have won that game.
We saw that 2 weeks ago.
Right.
On a Tuesday.
So
we got run rules.
So that's to me the difference in the two clubs is that they have the ability to go out on a weeknight and win the game, but that doesn't necessarily translate to the success so far this season. They're 13-15 overall, 4-5 in Sunbelt. So it's like, we were talking about this, and I don't know if we were talking about it on the show or we were in the group chat, but I kept saying, like, Texas State we keep saying, man, their endowment in football, they're just really going to dominate in the Sunbelt. In basketball, they're going to dominate. In baseball, man, here they come. And then they always kind of just lack something that they don't get across that finish line. I think you see that again this year in baseball is you feel like they have all the pieces, but they never quite put it together. So it'll be interesting to see what Coach Trout does for the rest of the season. Lane, any final thoughts on Texas State before I go to Sunbelt standings?
I am looking forward to the matchup with Texas State. It's always a fun atmosphere. I mean, I know the fans sometimes get into it with the players, with Texas State specifically. I remember a couple of years ago, a few people almost got kicked out because of it. Let's hope that doesn't happen this weekend, but hopefully it'll be a fun one for sure.
I totally agree, man. And look, at least it's not Troy coming in, so I don't think we have to worry about any player parents come and get kicked out and taken away. Anyway, we're not going to talk about that again. I will say it's very interesting the way that things ended up in the conference race. Let me go ahead and pull this up to share again. But the Cajuns are right in the thick of it. Hard to believe, man. Southern Miss is currently leading the Sun Belt Conference race at 7-2. And then you've got three teams at 6-3, including Louisiana, Coastal Carolina, and Troy. Of course, Troy does have a 1-game lead technically on us, but when you're looking at first place, we haven't played Southern Miss. So if we get a win and if we win 2 out of 3 or we sweep and Troy loses one more than we do, then we're right up there with Southern Miss. Really hard to believe. Another, it's kind of packed in the middle of the conference as well. Georgia Southern, Georgia State, and App State all at 5-4. Texas State, Arkansas State, James Madison, and Old Dominion at 4-5. And then rounding out the league, Marshall at 3-6. And then ULM and South Alabama at 2-7. Crazy to see South Alabama there at 2-7. Certainly did not expect that this season. But again, just kind of underachieving seems to be the theme with South Alabama lately. And, it's one of those things. It's almost like Texas State where you kind of feel like they're going to get over that hump and then something holds them back. So interesting, Lane, that we're 1 game out of first place, even though we're right at, I think we're right at 500. We're 1 game under 500.
1 game below
losing. Yeah.
1 game. Yeah.
So 15-16 on the season. Crazy stuff, man.
Speaking of underperforming and underwhelming, ULM was sitting at the bottom and it popped up in my head. They actually passed a athletic fee today. I think the vote was like 711 to 650. So I'm really surprised that I think this is the 3rd time they actually tried to vote on it. But I think it's like a $75 fee for a semester. Or per semester.
Yeah, that's going to be million. That's going to be what, $1.5 million to $2 million for those guys
for a year, like each semester. Yeah, so yeah. About $1 million a year. So I was actually surprised that they were the first ones to do it versus us in tech who don't have one.
You can't get it passed unless you try. You know, I mean, if they wouldn't have tried, they certainly wouldn't have gotten it passed. But a lot of people went in there saying, "Oh, this will never pass." Well, you don't know unless you try. And guess what? They tried. I think they did a pretty good campaign from what I saw. I
didn't realize how few students they had. They only have like 4,000.
Yeah,
on campus.
It's a small enrollment, but you also have to think they have a specialized program there with the pharmacy.
Yeah.
So, just still happy for them, and I'm tired of our own people in the conference shitting on them and saying they don't belong here. They need to go. We need to get rid of them. That's not the case, man. They're a founding member of the conference. I will always defend them in that regard. So I think ULM.
I just hope we beat them in every sport, but hey.
Yeah, I mean, we expect to beat them in every sport. Maybe that's why I like them so much. Because
wasn't there like several years ago where we had like a 30 or 35 game win streak against them in baseball?
It was something stupid because I do remember the last time that I remember going to ULM and they swept us under Coach Shake. They called him Sheck Snyder. Coach Shake went up there and they swept us. I don't think we lost another game there or to them in like 35 games. So yeah, it was something crazy, but Road made it a point. We'll never do that again. And thankfully we never have, but there's always a chance. Looking at the upcoming schedule for baseball this weekend, pulling up all of the conference games, ULM will play host to App State tomorrow afternoon starting at 4:00. Old Dominion hosts Troy. Southern Miss travels to Marshall. Arkansas State is at Coastal Carolina. James Madison will host Georgia State. Of course, Texas State visits Louisiana starting tomorrow night. And then South Alabama will play host to Georgia Southern. We'll be interested to see that Georgia Southern South Alabama series. I know Georgia Southern has won a couple of games that they probably shouldn't have. They dropped some that they probably shouldn't have. Georgia State looking at that series, but that will be interesting to watch. No games that you're looking at this weekend that are like, okay, I have to watch that within the conference. Everything's kind of like mid-level. I think maybe Texas State and Louisiana could possibly be the series that might be the most competitive, that you're looking for a little movement in the standings. But Lane, I'm looking at this and I'll have them on, but there's nothing I like must see TV this weekend in the conference.
And what I did notice, I was looking at the schedules on Sunday. I believe Southern Miss plays us and then Troy back-to-back weekends. So that'll be an interesting test for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, nothing really pops out this weekend other than us and Texas State.
What's a successful weekend? I think we have to obviously
winning the weekend.
I think we have to win the weekend, man. You're not looking for a sweep. The thing that scares the hell out of me again is that these teams are so alike in so many different facets that one of those games, like I feel like Friday night we should win with Simo on the mound. Again, it depends what our offense does and what our bullpen does behind them. Yeah. But it kind of worries you after that point because you're like, okay, who's going to show up for either team? We got to go 2-1, and that's my prediction this weekend. We got to go 2-1 this weekend. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, we got to go 2-1. I'd say minimum win Friday, obviously, because if you don't win Friday, you're kind of
behind
out of
the
luck.
Ball.
Yeah. But I think winning Friday and then dropping a close game Saturday, and then winning a blowaway game on Sunday with Tillett, I feel like that's your best option.
Well, we will see first pitch tomorrow night. I believe it's at 6:00. So all three games are going to be streaming, which I'm very happy about. What game was not streamed last night was Louisiana Tech, probably for better.
Probably a good thing.
Yeah, probably for better. But the other thing is we did have a game that was broadcast last night against Louisiana Tech, and that's the ladies. They played host to the Lady Bulldogs, I guess is what they call them. And softball got the win 3-0 over at Yvette Girard Field at Lamson Park. So get to see the ladies back in the win column, of course, after winning 1 out of 3 against Coastal Carolina. They will move on to face Troy this weekend in the 3-game series. That game also gets started tomorrow night. Series gets started tomorrow night at 6:00. Looking at the Sun Belt softball standings, and I'm going to share this because this is very interesting, Lane. Look who is at the top of the Sun Belt in softball. That would be ULM. We were just talking about how we always beat ULM. ULM is at the top of the standings at 7-2, 27-13 overall. They are on a 5-game win streak. Wow. That was not on my 2025 bingo card, Lane.
I didn't see us towards the bottom either.
Well, that's another thing. It's almost like flipped, right?
Yeah.
ULM, Georgia Southern, and Marshall all on top at 7-2, and then it gets a little bit jumbled the rest of the way. But yeah, looking at Louisiana at 4-5, 18-17 overall, and then you look at ULM way up there. You know, I think their only 2 losses were to us, right? Didn't we beat them twice this season? I'm pretty sure we
lost the series to ULM.
Oh, we did. We picked up 1 game. So yeah, one of those 2 games in the loss column are to us. But look, heck of a job by the team there in Monroe. And we were just talking about, you know, them getting some more money, and we always seem to have their number. It looks like ULM might be the leaders of the Sun Belt so far this year. So, yeah, seeing South Alabama down there, Louisiana down there, James Madison
surprises me because I know before they joined the Sun Belt, they were on a tear, and I believe they went to the Women's College World Series the year before they joined.
Yeah,
and then it kind of fell off.
Crazy, but it just in general, this whole standings that we're looking at is just it's out of whack. It's not what you expect from our league in softball with South Alabama, Louisiana, Texas State all kind of in the middle of the pack. Will be interesting to see how the rest of the season goes, but look, man, hard to hate on ULM, man. They try hard. Something may finally be working for them, so got to give them props there, right?
Yeah. Before we go to anything else, do you have the Deggs clip by chance?
I do not. Which Deggs clip are you talking about, brother?
The one where he got thrown out.
I can pull it up real quick while you want to talk about that.
Yeah, because I mean that's the first time I've seen him get thrown out in a couple of years, maybe.
Well, he got thrown out. I think wasn't it last year? He got thrown out at Louisiana Tech, where he was. I think early it was kind of a similar thing where he was arguing balls and strikes, but earlier in the game they called like a pitching clock violation, and he got pissed about that, but kind of let it go. He didn't really let it bother him, and then he reminded him with doing this thing and talking. You remember that? I think that was last year, wasn't it?
It might have been, but this is the first time I've seen him really animated this season, so it's actually good to see.
Let me pull this up. And we were just talking about it the other night, right? We were just saying, hey, why isn't he getting tossed for the home run thing? But
and I think Matt Deggs just got thrown out. He had something to say to home plate umpire Michael Carroll, and now he's not done. Ryan Broussard is. I think he's still upset over the non-home run call earlier.
And then I think we found out it wasn't actually the non-home run call. The home plate umpire was the same guy who called interference.
So he was the second base umpire during that Troy series or that game?
No, he was the home plate umpire during that series where the last play he called interference on our batter for the final out of the game. That's why he did that. It had nothing to do.
At the same time, the umpires blew 2 obvious calls in that game that he got thrown out.
Well, that man on the screen right there, Ryan Broussard, is the one. I don't know if you saw the post that I had, but it was somebody had tweeted out something like, name the 2 biggest rivals or the biggest, something
battle or whatever.
The biggest battle of all time. And I was like, Ryan Broussard and the foul pole. No, it was Ryan Broussard who came in and did Ryan Broussard things. I don't know what else to say about that, Lane. I'll play it again because it was just so damn funny to watch. Let's go back. I want to see it one more time. I know we've seen it 100 times.
Matt Deggs just got thrown out.
Well, obviously.
He had something to say to home plate umpire Michael Carroll, and now he's not done. Ryan Broussard is.
He hit 450 right there.
I think he's still upset over the non-home run call earlier.
Dude, that is just so funny. I mean, you gotta love that. You gotta love it. And like you said, Lane, I'm glad it finally happened. You know,
Yeah.
We knew he had it in him, and we kind of wanted that to happen during the home run call. But I don't know that he knew for definitively whether or not that ball was out. But I guess he, we knew it was out because we saw the tape. We saw the replay 100 times. Yeah. And by the way, let's go as Jerry joins us. I think I'm going to put it back on because I want to play. Hold on. Let me pull this back up. I want to play what happened in the game before or that prompted all of this, because this cat, look at how far he throws his knee out there. Like, come on, bruh. If you don't think that was sticking your knee out there, come on.
So if he doesn't stick his knee out, the catcher catches it.
He catches the ball. Nothing happens. Jerry, are we crazy on this? I mean, come on, man.
Well, what's funny is it was a strike. That's how far. According to the track, apparently, like, I don't know if they analyzed the TrackMan after, but I heard that it was a strike. So he stuck his knee inside of the actual strike zone.
Yeah, that wasn't a strike. I'm going back and watching that. That's definitely not a strike, but
no, it was. It was. It was a strike.
Jerry, look at where that pitch.
Nick,
that is not a strike, bro.
They analyzed it after the game.
It's in the
Trust
box.
me, it was a strike.
Come on, man.
I'm telling you, it was a strike. I'm telling you.
All right, I'm gonna take your word for it.
But here's what's funny. So here's what's funny about that whole thing, and I apologize for my tardiness tonight, but you guys have talked about Coach Deggs getting thrown out. I don't know. Did you mention why he did that charade where he was swinging to the fence?
That's what I was telling Lane. It wasn't because of the home run call. It was because that was the same home plate umpire that called interference at the end of the Troy game.
That's right. And, that umpire is fairly young from what I was told. He's kind of he hasn't really had as much experience as the others.
But we shouldn't be his damn learning curve.
No, and that's the point. I think that's why Matt Deggs was so upset, was the fact that, like, look, you missed the call against Troy, which ended the game. That's one thing. But then to botch this, to do it multiple times in a span of a few weeks, that's unforgivable.
And by the way, Jerry, look at this. He's walking away and
you see, looking for Gunner. Watch. Rewind it, and look at Gunner.
Hold on, let me go back. I saw was it Gunner yelling?
No, so you see Gunner pointing, see how Gunner points?
Right.
He's walking back to the dugout. That's right. He's telling him you got tossed.
Yeah.
And what's crazy about it is, I believe from what I was told, that the umpire had basically said something to Deggs, like kind of under his breath, and Deggs got mad about that. So he basically told him,
because this is when he goes, chicken shit right there.
Yeah.
He can read his lips. Chicken shit. And I agree.
Well, the umpire, he basically told the umpire, get your act together and put it to nice terms. And the umpire said something under his breath. And then Deggs basically said something back to him as he's walking back to the dugout. Gunner points at him and says, "Coach, you just got thrown out." And that's when Deggs turns around and does that full
and by the way, Deggs was right. Deggs was right, and they replayed. Yeah, they did the replay. He was right. He had to go back to home plate, and Deggs had to sit out a game because of that. I'm not going to say the word, but yeah.
No, it's crap. No, it sucked. I mean, look, again, it's one thing to mess up a call a few weeks ago, and for the same guy to botch that call there, and then having to get your coach tossed because of it. I mean, that's straight up incompetence. One of the biggest issues.
It was kind of like Jay Johnson talking about getting tossed at who was it, at Texas, because of the umpire. They had an issue in the regional last year. It's kind of the same thing. Like,
do you remember
those grudges?
Yeah, I was going to say, do you remember how Tony Robichaux used to call these umpires? He would always say, call them Joe Puffy, because they'd have the patch on, and he's like, they puff their chest out a little bit more. We got too many Joe Puffies, Nick.
Definitely got a Puffy on third base, not being able to see that the ball clearly hit off the foul pole, but that's neither here nor there. Jerry, thank you for joining us, man. Glad you got to come in late. You came in at a good time because you're going to see something you haven't seen quite yet. And I know, did you get to watch the Trout interview? That was pretty good. He was
I was able to listen to it. That was really, really nice of Coach Trout. I want to thank Coach Trout for coming on and speaking with us or speaking with you guys. Very, very, very good interview. Very colorful interview. He seemed very transparent, very open about the situation going into this weekend. So no, it was as always. We do a great job interviewing coaches, and it's good to see the coaches reciprocate the way that they give their interviews. And I mean, it was a good lengthy interview y'all had with him.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. We try to keep it concise. I mean, he was literally just getting off the bus, so we wanted to give him time to get unpacked. And you could hear him. It sounded like he had some baseball bats he was unpacking from his bag. But as we move on through the episode, we covered baseball, we covered softball. We're going to cover something now that we don't typically do, 2 sports. We're going to talk about track and field, and we're going to talk about men's golf. And, you know, one thing, Jerry and Lane, that I talked about is that I want to highlight these athletes, but it's hard because I don't know how to talk track. And with golf, I mean, I've played golf badly, and I continue to play golf terribly, but I don't know how to carry the conversation. So we had a really special guest, and I got to tell you, Dan, after the interview, was like, bring me on anytime to talk about anything, anywhere. And so Dan McDonald, who, of course, everybody knows, he runs the, I shouldn't say runs the stream. He's the play-by-play guy for our ESPN Plus broadcast. He does a lot for the university as well. And then a standout SID for us for many, many years. He came on and talked to us about track and field, which is something he loves, and also golf. So we'll go ahead and watch that interview real quick. We'll come back. We'll wrap it up with those topics. But, you know, it was interesting to see because Dan loves this, and he actually is the commentator for the Louisiana Classics, and he did that a couple days ago. So let's welcome to Rage and Review, Dan McD. Pleased to welcome in a Louisiana legend. I told you, Dan, I would brag about you, but you are in the Louisiana Athletics Hall of Fame. You're in the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, former SID and current really voice of the ESPN Plus broadcast, Dan McDonald. Thank you so much for joining me today, sir. How are you?
Nick, I don't know about a legend, but I guess you become legend when you get old, and I certainly fit that bill.
You realize, Dan, I don't know if you've known me since 1997 when I was a damn freshman, but you've seen me grow up there, and I've seen you grow old. So how do you feel about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And at least you did it gracefully. You can tell by the way I look that, you know, I'm still, it amazes me that I get to do the ESPN Plus broadcast. The good thing there is that normally I'm on for about 20 seconds in the pregame and I never get seen again, which is a good thing. There you go.
Not a bad thing. Well, you know, I was a little hesitant having to go on camera here, but fortunately not just for men yet, but it's going to get there, I'm sure, at some point in the very near future. But I appreciate you for joining us. Look, I know back in the day, and the reason I asked you to come on here is because I always remember when we were at baseball, regardless of what was going on, you always had those little bitty tiny binoculars, and you were always looking towards the track complex, and you knew the ins and outs of track and field. And I know we were talking before we went on here that track and field, the men's track and field indoor championships, we won that. And I don't think there's enough recognition for the guys who you know participated in that event. And I'm going to go down the list right now of school records that were set in the indoor championships. Lawson Jacobs.
I hope you have a lot of time because they set a lot of records.
Well, I have a few. I don't know if they're all of them, but Lawson Jacobs had a school record in the 400. Joe Patterson in the 800. Alexandra Johnson in the 800. Ella Segura in the 3000. High jump was Elisha Veal. And then the weight throw was Lily Murray. That was just in the indoor championships this year. You know, talk to us a little bit about how big of a deal. I mean, I remember Coach Lonsaw back in the day. He did great things, and now we're moving on to a new regime as far as coaching goes for the track team under Coach Tommy Badon and his staff. Talk to us a little bit about how big of a deal that really was for us to win that men's indoor for the first time in many, many years.
Well, I think it was huge. They had gone almost a quarter century without winning a team track and field title. And, you know, this program goes way back to the 60s
when Bob Cole was the head coach, another member of the Hall of Fame. They won, several conference championships in a row. And then, Coach Lawson, you said Charles Lawson came along and sort of brought the program back to that. Those two guys really concentrated on the team aspect of the sport. Some coaches will concentrate on the individual. And, track is basically an individual sport with the exception of the relays. But, a lot of people don't really put a lot of emphasis on the team part of it, the team scoring. And it's because there aren't that many meets anymore that actually score except for a conference meet. You probably the Cajuns probably won't have a outdoor meet that keeps score as a team until they go to the conference meet in a few weeks. So, that sort of got almost not pushed to the side, but it was a little de-emphasized. They emphasized individual performances for a while, and they had some great individual performances over the last, couple of decades. But when Tommy Badon took over as coach, he wanted to bring back what Coach Cole did. He wanted to bring back what Coach Lawson did. He idolized Coach Lawson, and he thought that what he did was the way you should run a track and field program. And he's been building on that these last 2 or 3 years. And, this year it all came to fruition. It could have happened last year. If they'd got a couple of breaks, they could have won the men's last year in the outdoor. They could have won one of the women's titles last year. But this year, obviously, they were able to break through on the men's side, won the conference indoor, in what was, what it wasn't decided until the last event. And that was just, I remember talking to Tommy after they got home, and, he said he was cool on the outside, but inside he was churning. I mean, he was just going absolutely crazy because he knew they had a chance to do something they hadn't done in a long, long time.
That's awesome. And I mean, you go through the relays that they participate in, and of course now it's outdoor season, but just a few days ago, the big day at the Bobcat relays. I mean, you look at what they did, it's impressive. I mean, even you're looking at, 5 scores in the top 30 in the nation. And it feels like we've been off of the radar for quite a while. And now all of a sudden we're like talking about national rankings for some of our track team members. That's just really, really impressive by some of the guys. And again, Lawson Jacobs he's one of my favorites. He's fun to watch, but there's just a lot of, he's fast.
Yes. He's really, really fast. You mentioned the 400 meter indoors,
right?
He was a 100th of a second away from winning the 60 meter. And
wow.
That is a really hard double in the indoors because they almost come right after each other. And it's so much of a different race. Indoors, that's a couple laps, and the 60 is just that one straightaway and you just go as hard as you can. He almost pulled off a pretty impressive double.
Yeah. And Lily Murray, I know she didn't place as high as she would have liked to this past weekend, but the fact that she's carrying, I think she's in the hammer throw now is that what it is now in the spring?
Yeah, in the outdoor, it's the hammer. Indoor, it's the weight throw. It's
the weight throw. Yeah.
Similar but different. It's sort of the indoor counterpart to what would be the hammer throw outside. And you mentioned, Lily, she's going to be a much more of a force outdoors and already has shown that. In fact, the entire Cajun women's team is probably better suited to the outdoor competition than they were the indoor. A lot of the events that they will score a lot of points in outdoors aren't contested indoors. The discus, the hammer, the javelin. The men are going to score heavily in the javelin too. Those are not indoor events. So I think they're going to be even better. It would not, I know we're putting the onus on somebody, but it would not surprise me at all if they didn't go on to the outdoor event. And if they get a few breaks, they could sweep the men's and the women's title.
Wow. And plus, is it LSU this weekend or is it Southern this weekend? They're at the Pelican relays.
Yeah. Southern hosts the Jaguar relays, and it always brings a great field. There's a lot of people from that event always draws a lot of what they call unattached participants. It's guys that were former collegians. They just love track. Plus they're trying to stay in shape, trying to make a name for themselves, potentially move on to the track professional ranks. Like our guy here in Lafayette, Mondo Duplantis is doing. Everybody knows what he's doing. I don't know if they're on that level yet, but they're guys that are trying to do that. And so they'll compete unattached in a lot of these college meets. And so you get really, really good competition in a lot of events. Not all of them, but you'll get really good competition. And, that this will be a good test for the UL folks to sort of get, they'll see better competition in this meet, very likely, than they'll see in the conference meet.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. And that meet is only a couple of months away. That's in May. As my dog sneezes behind me. But let's talk about that. So as you're going from indoor to outdoor meet, how does that translate? I mean, again, you're talking about like the hammer throw, there's a difference there, but really when you're looking at the distance running and things like that, it's pretty much all the same, right? So you would have to feel that the Cajuns feel pretty good about themselves going into the outdoor meet later this year.
Well, it's the same, but it's different. And I know that sounds odd, but that's a way you can describe it. On indoor, the track is banked, and they don't have a banked track. They don't have a place to practice that. So, the outdoor is probably more suited to what they have as far as their facilities and so forth. They match up a lot more. All outdoor tracks are pretty much the same, and all the facilities are pretty much the same. So, it's nobody has a real advantage, and they get to do, they get to put up their best effort and not have to worry about little things like that big bank on the track or a seam in the track. Those things are put together, and you catch a seam and all of a sudden you're falling off the track and so forth. It doesn't really happen in the outdoor. So I think it's a more fair test of who's actually, your top performers. And I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be, there are going to be some good teams there. Arkansas State's going to be very good again. They had won the indoor championship 3 or 4 years in a row before this year, and they've been really good in the outdoor. And there are some other teams that will be good. But, the UL team, the way they performed at the indoor meet, if that's any indication, if they don't win it, they're going to be right there among those leaders.
Yeah, and this might not, I can't answer the question, so you probably can't either, but do you think there's any reason why we don't have, you feel like you've got the Cajun Dome right there where we can do indoor meets here in Lafayette. Any reason we haven't really done that yet in all these years of track and field at UL? Well,
one thing that an indoor track's expensive. It costs, it's not just, throwing some plywood down there and running on it. It's to have the good ones, the ones that people actually want to run on, the synthetic tracks and so forth. It's hard to do that. And it's a difficult thing, and it's an expensive thing. It's now to the point, most schools, unless they have a really nice field house or something, most schools don't have the indoor facilities. UL had to go. In fact, the conference meet was held in Birmingham. Well, there's not a Sun Belt team in Birmingham, but that happened to be an available indoor track. There's one there, and there are a couple others scattered around the South. But one in Houston. But it's an expensive proposition to have an indoor facility. And then you think about, you also have to have things like you've got to have you've got to have a cage for the weight throw. You've got to have a pit dug and sand for the long jump and the triple jump.
It's not just a lot of little things. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's a lot of things that it's an expensive thing, and it's a difficult setup if you only do it once a year. The folks in Birmingham, they hosted, I think, 4 different conference championships this year. That's an example of what a lot of leagues go to there, because they have that facility and they're used to having it. They're used to setting it up and so forth. It's an easy thing for them to do.
So before we turn the page, because I do want to get into golf with you, because again, that's another sport that we don't really talk about a whole lot, just because I don't know how to talk golf. What do you expect out of the conference meet later this year? And when I say what do you expect out of it, are there any top performers that you saw in the indoor meet that you expect to continue to excel this spring in that meet later in May?
Well, I'm going to cheat a little bit because I want to look at something here real quick, make sure I don't leave somebody out. A guy like Jeremy Nelson, who won the indoor triple jump, he's going to be back there, but in close contention for it. Lawson Jacobs, I mean, I'm not sure what he's going to run outdoors. He'll probably run just, excuse me, the 100 and the 200, but, no telling. It's going to depend a lot of it on how the points go. He was the SEC or at the Sun Belt Conference's indoor performer of the year. And I'm trying, there's one more, and oh boy, I'm trying to think of who it is now that is going to break the record in the men's 800-meter run this year. And I'm drawing a complete blank, and I apologize.
Of course, right when you need it.
Patterson.
Yeah, we talked
Joe
about
Patterson.
him. Yep, Joe Patterson.
One of the oldest records in the book for UL as far as track and field is Joel Chesemet, who set the record in the 800-meter run, and that was back in the early 90s. And nobody's come within really a second of that until now, Joe Patterson. And if he didn't break it over the past weekend, and I have not checked, but he was close. If he didn't break it, he's going to break that record at some point before the year's over. It might be at the conference meet, might be this weekend over at the Pelican. But that's another guy that I think you can really watch for and see what he's going to do outdoors. Will he just run the 800? Will he run the 800 and the 1500? Or will he try to come down and run the 400? I mean, he's got that kind of capability that, he can do a couple events. He can double up. 400 to 800 is a tough double. 800 to 1500 is a little more doable for a lot of these guys. It'll be interesting to see what he winds up doing. But let me tell you, Coach Badon is going to have, by the time they get around to the week before, he's going to have that chart. He's going to know what everybody in the league did, what everybody in the league's best mark is, and he's going to have it all pointed out. And he's going to say, okay, we have to do well in this event, and this event. And if they do that, they'll win enough. They'll get enough points so they could win the meet.
Man, and you haven't met a nicer guy than Coach Battle, I gotta say.
Oh no,
he's just a good dude.
And, okay, got to tell my story. Because Tommy, when he was in school when I first got to then USL in 1980, and he was a member of the football team, but he was a kicker. And unfortunately, he didn't get to kick a lot because the Cajuns had a guy named John Rivetto, who was the place kicker and who went on and played in the NFL and so forth, set all the school records in kicking that some of them have since been broken, but they stood for an awful long time. He broke a lot of Raphael Septien's records. But Rivetto was the kicker. So he and Tommy were close friends, but Tommy didn't get to kick a lot. So what he did, actually, he was a walk-on in football, but he also was on a work scholarship, and he worked in the sports information office with us.
Oh, wow.
And that's cool. Where, he was already there before I got there. He was sort of holding the fort down until I got there in like August of 1980. And, we've been really good friends ever since. He went on and did some great things as an assistant here, was at Blinn College, which is a national track powerhouse, and then came back and coached high school for a while, track and football. But then, he sort of came home a few years ago when the track job opened up here, and, the rest is history of what they've done and what they're going to continue to do. They're on track. I think, a little pun on words, they're on track right now to do some of the things that may be in the Bob Cole era and the Charles Lawson era. Can they get to that point? Who says they can't?
That is awesome, man. And you brought up a memory for me when you're talking about the old SID days, because I remember you would walk into the complex, you'd see the ticket office, you'd take a right, and that first door on your right was the big open office where it was just a lot of crap all over the place.
Yeah, we had crap everywhere. I mean,
I remember Kevin being there, and man, that was back in the day. So that brought back some good memories. Not 1980 memories. I mean, I was born in '79, so a little bit before my time, but not much change.
You probably crawled through there at some point.
I probably indeed did. Well, thanks for talking about track. Let's turn it over to golf. because Cajuns golf, when I look through what they've done this season, and I thought it was important to talk about this as well. Obviously, we had a great performance at the Louisiana Classics, and we're going to talk about Oakbourne in a second, but I want to talk about the overall year that the golf team is having. They've had some pretty nice finishes. I mean, they finished about 4th or 5th in most of the tournaments. They came in first in a couple of them. Obviously, performed really well in the Louisiana tournament. Talk a little bit about the golf team this year and how they're progressing and what we look for Coach Theo and his group this year.
Well, they're a really good mix of guys that have been around for a little while, like Milan Potgieter and Eli Ortego, those type guys, and a few newcomers that have come in. They've really sort of blended together really well. And, they jumped out there and won their first tournament of the year in the fall. They went to the Border Olympics way down in Laredo, Texas, and won. And that's one of the oldest tournaments in the country. I mean, the Louisiana Classics is 40 years old. It's one of the top 20 in the country, but the Border Olympics has been around.
I didn't realize it was that old.
Yeah, it's been around for a long time, even before that. So, that was a really good win for them. And they've been pretty solid in all these events. And obviously they finished 3rd in the Louisiana Classics in their own event at Oakbourne behind 2 really good teams, LSU and Texas A&M. They're both going to be national seeds when the bids come out for the NCAA tournament this year, and they're going to go at it in the SEC tournament in a couple of weeks. But, that was a really good 3rd place finish for them. Milan Potgieter won the individual title after he almost tried to give it away. He had a 4-stroke lead with 1 hole to go, and one of the players from LSU rolls in a crazy putt, and Milan 4 putts on the last green. So they're tied. They have to go to a playoff. But he ended up winning on the 3rd hole of that playoff, which was really exciting. No UL player in those 40 years has ever won the individual title. They'd won some team titles, but no player has ever won the individual until he did it there. And that was pretty special for him and pretty special for that team.
I tell you, it's fun watching it too, by the way. When there's the ESPN Plus broadcast on that last day, I was screaming at my TV watching it, but that was exciting stuff. And I don't know that we promoted enough for people to really watch, but man, I love watching. First of all, Eli Ortego was one of my favorite golfers of all time as far as the UL program goes. Well, who's one of your favorite golfers of all time with UL? I know you've seen a few, so there've got to be some in there that kind of ring a bell in your mind that are like, yeah, up there on top.
Well, of the group that's here now, and let me say this, every one of those guys, they follow the Theo Slyman model. Every one of those guys is just they're quality young men, and they're also golfers. And it's a pleasure to be around those guys. But, Eli Ortego is one of my favorites, mostly because he grew up next door to me. His family lived right next door for probably 7 or 8 years when he was growing up. They had moved about the time he started high school. And of course, he went to high school at Ascension Episcopal, which is only like 6 blocks from where we are right now. But he's among the group that's here right now. He's among my favorites. But they've had so many good players and so many good guys. I look back at a guy like Mike Heinen, who won on the PGA Tour, and had a lot of success. Won his career earnings probably a couple $1 million on the PGA Tour. But he never changed. He was always that guy from Welsh who just had fun playing and was just so great with people. There's guys like Craig Perks who won the Players Championship. I mean, it's the 5th major on the PGA Tour. But I always enjoyed being around Craig because he was from New Zealand. And he had the accent, and I just loved listening to him talk, for one thing. And you can still hear him on the Golf Channel every once in a while. But, a couple of guys like that went on to success. But there have been so many good kids come through there that, I've had the pleasure of knowing. And one group I do want to point out, and I don't want to talk about any individuals because there's so many of them. But, the UL program has had almost a dozen players from the country of Iceland. And you don't think of Iceland as a big golf country, and it's not. There are not a lot of golfers because there are not a lot of golf courses, and their playing season is so short. But Olfar Jansson was the first Icelandic player that came over and played way back when Coach Bob Bass was coaching the golf team.
Wow, that brings back memories.
Yeah, and Olfar is now the director of youth golf for the whole country. And what he's able to do is he's able to channel some of his guys and really talk up the Cajun program. Now, some of them have gone on and they've done things at other schools, which, that's fine. In fact, LSU's number one player and the guy that may be the best player in the country is from Iceland this year, kind of ironically. He's just a freshman.
Wow.
But he's sort of funneled a lot of guys here, and all of them, are, they're good golfers, but they're even better young men. And, it's just a pleasure to be around those kind of guys.
Man, I remember Heinen, but man, when you said Craig Perks, I'm like, I forgot about Craig Perks. He played for, I forgot that he went to UL. And just hearing the stories about Iceland, that's freaking amazing. Bob Bass, man, you want to talk about a legend? That guy was cool. I liked him.
Well, I just saw him a couple of weeks ago. He came in town for the Louisiana Classics, and
awesome.
And he, was here and had a great time. And he'll be back in October because we'll host again the Bill Bass Open, which is named after his father and is the UL homecoming event. So I know I'll see him a couple of times during the year.
That is amazing. Well, Dan, I appreciate it. Before we go, your thoughts. I mean, as far as golf goes, it's not like baseball where you can kind of see where they are and RPI and all this stuff. How are we in a good position to make a regional? Obviously, it depends how well we perform in the SBC championships. But as far as golf goes, your thoughts as far as making a regional this year. I know a couple years ago, man, that was a lot of fun to watch. Your thoughts this year?
Yeah, when they won that conference champion 2 years ago, I mean, nobody expected that. They had finished dead last the year before.
I remember that. Yeah,
and then just popped up and won it. And it's tough to do because the way the conference tournament is set up, you play 3 rounds of just regular stroke play, just like any other tournament. But then the top 4 teams advance to a match play thing. The top team in the scoring plays the number 4 team. The number 2 team plays the number 3 team. It's head up. It's just like Ryder Cup. It's head up. And then the 2 winning teams will advance and play in the championship match. And, they won the championship match when made a putt on the last hole in the last group to win that title. So it was really spectacular. Can they do that again? It's a possibility, but there are right now, and I think I counted, there are 6 Sun Belt teams that are between number 50 and number 100 in the national rankings. And pretty much if you can get into the mid to low to high 60s, you'll get into the tournament. A lot of teams get into the NCAAs. They play that in regionals. And each regional has 17, 18 teams and so forth. So a lot of teams do get in. If you win the conference, it's just like basketball. You win the conference, you automatically get in. But then there are a lot more at-larges than there are the conference champions. And, last year the Sun Belt had 4 teams get in. They probably will do something like that this year. And the key is for them to play well the rest of the way and then play well in the conference tournament. I think if they do that, if they play well in these last couple of events and then go to the conference tournament and get into that 4, get into the match play, I think that they'll be in the NCAA tournament.
All right, last question for you before I let you go. Totally off topic. Let's talk
about
the cheetah field.
Yeah. It's the cheetah. That's what it is. Oh, I thought you were going to ask me what the fastest land mammal was.
No, it is not that. It is center field. So in the early, you started that. Am I correct in saying that you started center field? I know people like to give me credit for it, but I got to say Dan started it. How did that come about?
Well, for one, I liked the song. John Fogerty came out with it in 1985. And, at the time, our version of a sound system at the baseball field was a handheld mic, and I had a cassette player. And I had the cassette of Fogerty's that album, and so that's how we played it. But that was probably 88 or 89. I didn't, I was looking for some music, and I didn't really like the take me out to the ball game thing. Everything I found was sort of staid. It was slow. It was boring, and I just thought that would be something different. So started playing that. I don't remember if it was 88 or 89 when we started really using it, but it was kind of funny. I just take the microphone after it was like a 7th inning stretch time, and I'd put the microphone down on top of the cassette recorder, and then it would go. And that's how we did our music back then. But they've continued the tradition. It's so much fun to see everybody standing up and clapping. And the couple of things I'm always struck with is they put the words up on the scoreboard, but nobody looks at them because by now they all know the words. And if there's not a pitching change, there's usually not enough time between the top of the seventh and the bottom of the seventh to really get in like the first two choruses. So they have to tone the music down in the press box, but that doesn't stop the fans. They will keep singing until they finish that second chorus. And I think that's really cool.
It's funny because sometimes the umpires would even stop, like they'd be waving to us to stop the music, and we're like, we're not playing.
Well, it's not us anymore. It's the fans, and you're not going to keep them quiet.
But it's like green onions for Robe. Like I didn't come up with that for any particular reason other than, okay, we're going to play this when Robe goes out and it became a thing. But I do appreciate you starting that. It did, but I appreciate you starting that many years ago.
And the great thing, and I'm again not going to call any names, but the first time after Coach Robe's tragic death, when Matt Deggs walked out to the mound, the guy who's doing the music, who didn't know, I'm sure you just didn't know all the tradition. He put that on, and we went into the booth and said, "Don't ever play that song again."
Never again. So yeah, that lives with Robe. Appreciate it, Dan. Thank you so much for the memories. Thank you so much for the dialogue on these great teams we have here. Hopefully we can do it again, man, when we get around.
I would love to, Nick. I'd love to. Anytime you need me, I'm here.
I appreciate that, and give your wife a hug for me because I miss Mary Beth.
I'll certainly do that, but I'm in the shower before I do that because I just mowed the yard a little while ago.
You've been mowing the yard, yeah. I appreciate it. Thanks, Dan. Have a good one, man.
Thank you.
All right, see ya. Boys, that was so much fun. The one thing you get with Dan that I think is so spectacular is you're never going to get just a conversation about golf. You're never just going to get a conversation about whatever topic you're bringing to him. Those memories, and dude, when he's talking about that old SID office that I think Lane, you texted me, when I tell you that SID office was a shit show and it had not changed from 1980 with Badon in the SID office to 1990, probably the early 2000s when they finally, redid the inside of the Cox building. I was probably crawling in there. The guy wasn't lying, but the amazing stories you get from him. I mean, who knew that we had such a connection to Iceland through golf, and that the head of the Icelandic golf stuff was like at UL, and now it's amazing. So I just got to say, dude, we got to find a way to get Dan on here more because I think that was a lot of fun. Jerry, I don't know what else to say. I mean, that was cool. If you ever want random information about anything having to do with UL athletics, like anything about UL athletics dating back to like the 1950s or 1960s, Dan is your guy. Dan knew that Badon was on the football team and who the kicker was at the time and why he got into the NFL and who he beat out. And look, I remember all this. And look, I know I'm kind of the historian of Rage and Review. Like I take a lot of pride in knowing a lot of UL history, but Dan is he's on another level of fun facts and random facts. If you ever want like a historical reference, just ask Dan. I mean, the knowledge he has for track, like Tim, talking about the success we've had, the recent success we've had in track and field, and him going back in time and talking about all of these different relays and all these different meets. It's like, and to me, I'll be honest with you, I don't follow track and field much. I like to, follow our successes, but he knows all of it, like all of it. It's insane. It's insane. Yeah. I loved hearing the story. I know it's kind of off topic from golf and track, but the story of him starting center field on a cassette player, right? That is pretty cool because I remember I'm not lying to you. So my brother played American Legion ball or coached it, excuse me. He was the head coach. Bab was his assistant. I was the bat boy. But as I grew older, I started like going up in the press box and doing stuff. And that's how I started announcing. I was in high school learning all that stuff. Barry Sherman, who was a KPEL guy, he was a KTDY guy back in the day. He was a DJ, when guys had they would talk like this and announce like this. That was Barry Sherman. and they still had that freaking cassette player up there from years ago, and he would literally put the mic to the cassette. So when he said that, I kind of laughed because like I was alive during that. That's insane. Insane.
The first time I was really exposed to center field was actually not at the Teague. It was actually at UNO. So my uncle and I, years ago, this is like probably late 90s when UNO was in the conference in the Sun Belt. And we went to a UNO, I don't know if it was still USL at the time, but we went to the baseball game and, we're watching and the 7th inning stretch happens and we stand up for the 7th inning stretch and we're singing Take Me Out to the Ball Game. After they finish playing that, all the Cajun fans start clapping and doing like a cappella to center field. I was like, what are they singing that for? I didn't understand why. I was like, what is that? That's pretty cool, And then the first time I ended up going to the Teague, I got to see that's how they do the 7th inning stretch. And it was just so cool because, even way back then when I was a kid in New Orleans, of all places, at Privateer Park, Cajun fans were singing their own rendition of center field for the 7th inning stretch. And, it's so cool how that tradition is carried on. I know Josh is not the biggest fan of it. I know Luke's not the biggest fan of it.
No, he loves it.
But
he's lying to you.
Look, that's a tradition that we should never get rid of. It's too unique for us. I like how some people have taken my tagline of, the best tradition, best 7th inning stretch of all of college baseball, but it is.
Not naming names.
Yeah, it is though. It really is. Another fun fact I wanted to give you, Nick, was so Robe's song was obviously Green Onions. The band that plays Green Onions, I think it was like in the 1960s, was Booker T and the MGs.
Yes.
So if you ever watch Gunner walk out to the mound now, the song is called Time is Tight. It's the same band that played Green Onions. So that's actually pretty cool when you think about it, because even though they don't play Green Onions anymore, it's cool that they kind of transition that Robe tradition to a different song by the same band. So I'm glad they did that. But I thought I think that's really cool that they kept it in the same, realm,
The day Robe passed, July 3rd, 2019, I called in because they had a special deal on ESPN. Jay was still there. He was hosting a show. They were having and it may not have been that day. It may have been I don't know.
I think it was.
It was.
It was that day, yeah.
Yeah, and I called in and because I heard them talking about it, and I think I don't know if it was Top or somebody texted me and said, "Hey, they're talking about Green Onions. Call in." So I did, and one of the things they asked me was like, "How'd you come up with that song?" And I'm like, "Man, I don't know. Like, what else do you play for Robe? Like, he's not exactly the guy. I mean, you're gonna go play Jungle Boogie when he goes out to the mound." And I'm like, I just had a certain number of songs, and I was like, this had no words to it because, Jerry, Robe, if you get him in a conversation, he would never shut up. But like when the man was walking around, he was like, he's silent. Like the man just walked around. He was like in his own world. He was quiet. If he was very shy, everybody thought he was an outgoing guy. When he went in front of an audience, when he was talking to people one-on-one, he was very communicative, and he was, very friendly. But outside of that, he was very quiet. He was always thinking. His mind was always going. So it was a song with no words. It wasn't that deep, but like it's crazy, kind of like center field, how that grew into a thing when an 18-year-old kid's just playing a song that he thought, all right, well, what am I going to play? Two-step Mamu for Robe? Like I'm not, So it's crazy how it turned into that. And then I heard about the first time that after Robe's passing, there was a mound visit, and Dan quickly shut that down. Is my understanding.
I do like the fact that they played "Time Is Tight" by the Booker T and the MGs, because it is almost like an indirect salute to Robe, even though it's a different song. And look, it's funny because Robe never really knew what the song was. He always used to say, "I don't know who sings it. I've never heard of it."
I was playing it. If I'm being honest with you,
not paying attention because he's probably so focused during the game. But it's stuck, and it's just another tradition of the past that, is well appreciated, and they've continued it in their own way with a different song from the same band. So it's really appreciative. Like you talked about the Dirty Dozen and certain traditions that were at the old Teague. There are certain things that we still do that kind of honors, the past in many ways, somewhat. So
You know, Robe and I had a real close friendship, and Robe could tell me anything, and it was no big deal. But what was so funny is that he never knew when I was announcing or when I was playing music. He dropped a few F-bombs one time when I don't know, and it's so funny because like Robe never noticed anything outside of the dugout. But it was a fall baseball game. I was announcing and just so happened to be playing the music because it's fall baseball, and I played "Teach Me How to Dougie," which is not
it's harmless
explicit song. It's like
harmless.
kind of fun. The players were getting into it, and Robe called out to the press box and he said, "Hey Nick, I don't know who's playing the music," and then filled with expletives for about 20 seconds. And said that song is banned from the field. And I'm like, all right. So I never told him it was me.
Were you the one that played the Three Blind Mice song too?
No, I never played Three Blind Mice. I played Fat, Drunk, and Stupid Is No Way to Go Through Life, Son. I played Hallelujah after the other team made an error. I played when somebody had a terrible swing, that's all right, Bobby. Just choke up on it and swing less like a girl. I played that for a few years. I got away with a lot of stuff, Lane. You can't get away with today.
Yeah. One thing that I wouldn't say it's ruining it, but a lot of the chants that like Section A has come up with, like the Jose chant and other things, whoever's running the sound now has like
drowning
put a sound out
almost.
And it's like doesn't make sense when the fans were doing it and making it better and everything. But a funny story about center field, it actually happened Sunday, April 1st. So we're getting ready for the 7th inning stretch, and they bring up Sweet Caroline, like the first few notes of Sweet Caroline.
I heard about that.
And everybody was like, wait, what? Like, what's going on? And then they shut it off, and everybody got mad. And that's actually one of the traditions, I guess, that they went away from. I'm not sure why, but that was a pretty funny instance with that scenario.
Yeah, they were definitely triggering people. I think there are a couple of things on that. One, they didn't hit center field, so people were pissed off for that. Two, Sweet Caroline was a very divisive topic. For some odd reason, Jerry, you know this. Like, John Dugas hated it, but then Chico would say, no, you can't get rid of it because we like doing it. And then some people in Section A hated it, and it was very divisive. And honestly, the reason we even started it is because T.D. Smith, back in the day, was a Red Sox fan. And he told me when he was announcing I was playing music, he was like, why don't you play this? And I was like, okay. I didn't care. And then it caught on and it became a thing. And then it became a thing that nobody wanted, but some people wanted. And then
I think so. The thing about Sweet Caroline was that you had like Section A, right? You guys, like Lane, you guys always sang the two lines and then, but now we sit, right? A tradition, even when the song would go out. The thing about Sweet Caroline to me was the fact that there wasn't much outside of Section A. There's not much participation with the song. Like people would hear it.
Cajun, and I think
and I think and like the problem with it was, like you said. So I didn't know TD was a Red Sox fan. That's Boston's tradition. Like that's something you do at Fenway. You can't. To me, it's like if you want to do a tradition, like center field is that's our song. That's something you do at the Teague. You're not going to hear them play that. You're not going to hear another school see what we do and try to mimic it and expect their fans to get into it as much because it's not their tradition. I think that's kind of the thing about Sweet Caroline was that it's just something that we play, but then most of the time, like in a midweek game, right? Most of even like last night, we were getting curb stomped by Tech, and we had a few hundred fans by the 7th inning. Most people had left, but people still stood up and clapped to center field, even if we're down 10 runs or however many runs. With Sweet Caroline, you can be up by 3 or 4 runs and you can still have a packed house. And, come 8th inning on a Tuesday night, people are walking out. They're not clapping to it. They're not singing to it. It's just, I don't know. It's kind of bland to me, Nick. I don't know. Just bland.
Look at Skinny Nick there, man. I needed to eat something.
You used to bring the microphone down to the crowd. Oh, there it is. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, do you know who she is?
I can barely see it.
I know it was a little shaky. This was pre-good iPhone days. You see, what happened was people kept telling me I was too skinny, needed to eat, and then it just didn't stop eating. That is Taylor Hubble's.
Oh, she's
girlfriend.
from the show.
Glee.
What was Glee? Yeah.
She played Brittany S. Pierce.
Yeah.
And then this guy coming behind is awesome. I don't know who he is. Watch this. Yeah, that guy was awesome. You see, for those reasons, it was a lot of fun, right? It was a lot of fun. But I get it. It wasn't Cajun. A lot of people wanted more Cajun stuff. I get it. I mean, nobody, to be honest with you, nobody in the press box really cared. But the fans, it was so divisive because they were like, you can't stop it. It's a tradition. And it's like, but it wasn't real. I don't know. It just,
I do like how softball's 5th inning stretch is Cajun. They get up and dance to it. Yeah.
I think that's great. I think that's great because,
man.
Yeah, she used to lead it. She used to lead it at the.
I think she still does to this day.
She still
of course,
does
she's
it,
a fan now, but yeah.
But like the beauty of like haters, right? You do the line dance. You could go as close as New Orleans and do the line dance, and nobody knows what it is because it's unique to over here. Like when people do haters line dance, we know what it is. That's what makes it great. So like if you're a visitor coming in from wherever to go to Lamson or Yvette Gerard Field at Lamson Park, and you see that, that's a unique thing that you see. It's not like we're used to it, you know? So those are the kind of things that makes it great here is that it's our traditions, you know? And I think
y'all just read too much into it. Flavor Fabes singing Sweet Caroline.
That was good.
Oh man.
I remember that. He got into it. He got into it. Yeah.
He would always hold his tummy and he would sing with, it was great. All right, boys, before we go, we do have a lagniappe. I do also want to thank our sponsors one last time, Dr. Brett Venable with Recovery Chiromed, Lafayette Roofing. I keep wanting to say Dr. Darren Domang. Maybe he is the doctor of roofing in Lafayette. Maybe that's a new tagline for him. Maybe a new commercial they could do, but thanks to Darren Doming and Lafayette Roofing. Rage and Hydration, we have a great partnership coming up. Nick likes to drink on these episodes, so nothing would be better than an IV.
Some IV after.
So, maybe when I'm in Lafayette and we have some fun or too much fun, I will hit up Rage and Hydration. But we do have the Eat Lafayette lagniappe segment of the week. And this week's going to be a little bit fun. It's going to be way off the wall. And boys, I'm going to ask you, and I'll go first because you probably have to think about this a little bit. Growing up as an 80s/90s kid, obviously when it got into the 90s, it was Saved by the Bell. It was, they had numerous TV shows I watched on Saturday, but Saturday morning cartoons were a thing. Lane, you're probably too young to remember that, but I'm sure Nickelodeon, whatever. But there are some very memorable cartoons that I watched as a kid. So my question to you guys is, what were your favorite cartoons growing up? As I said, will go first. This is one of my favorites coming up here. You probably have never heard of it, but we will go with it.
Hey, look! The Dungeons and Dragons ride!
Dungeons and Dragons. Now, this is a terrible theme because it's just kids talking.
I don't like this.
But Dungeons and Dragons was a thing back in the 80s.
Where are we?
And basically what happened was the kids were on a theme park ride and got sucked into Dungeons and Dragons world. So that's not really a good theme. When I think of themes and my favorite cartoons, hold on, let me get to this one because this is legit my favorite and y'all are going to make fun of me. I'm sorry. Muppet Babies. Yeah. I watch this every Saturday.
When you know it's weird.
Yeah. So Muppet Babies was my shit back in the day. I'll give you a couple more. Gummy Bears, bro.
I never knew Gummy Bears was a cartoon growing up.
Oh, bro. Come on now.
that was a little bit before my time. That was the 80s, wasn't it?
But I have to let me get. Here we go. Gummy berry juice. Come on, get to the point. Where gummy bears. All right, so gummy bears was a thing. Masters of the Universe. I'm not going to go through all that because it's kind of like the other one. There wasn't a whole lot of theme song. It was more like, by the power of Grayskull, I have the power. You know, that thing. But the most embarrassing one, let me just say, first of all, before we get into it.
So you got to give a disclaimer, so it must be pretty.
I do, because the guy was convicted of doing some stuff in a movie theater.
Oh, I know where you're going with this. I already don't.
Pee-wee's Playhouse, bro.
Yeah, Pee-wee.
Like, Pee-wee was my dog back in the day. And then they took him off the air because of that, which today he would have probably gotten an award anyway. God bless Paul Rubens. But yeah, this was my Shaw's. When I heard this come on, like, I knew my Saturday morning cartoons. This was the last one in the morning. It's the little beaver chopping the tree down. It's gonna get to it. It hits, man. It hits. But yeah, Pee-wee's Playhouse, dude. Did you guys watch that?
I watched the movie. I never watched the show.
Okay, I own the movie as an adult because
like
Big Top Pee-wee. No, it's Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Yeah, I watched the
hold on.
movie.
There we go. All right, so yeah, I miss Pee-wee's Playhouse. I do admit that I watch it on a certain streaming app.
But Nick, I gotta ask, like, who was on the acid trip to create that? Like the all the big inflatable toys and the dolls. I'm like, what kind of drugs were you on to create that show?
It was so Pee-wee was created as a joke. They were the Groundlings. They were like a troupe, a comedy troupe back in the 80s that just kind of did stupid stuff in Los Angeles. And Lawrence Fishburne was on this freaking.
Which is crazy when you think about it, because he's a very well-respected actor.
So they had all these comedians that would do all this stuff, and they were trying to get well-known. Some of them moved on to SNL, whatever, but the Groundlings were a thing. Paul Rubens developed the character. He did a stage show on that. It just kind of grew from there. Yeah, I mean, he was probably sniffing some good stuff back in the day, but...
Right.
The word of the day. Maybe we should start that. Everybody yells when you say the word of the day. When the word of the day is like Shaw's, you know, ding, ding, ding. That'd be awesome. All right, Jerry. Sorry, yeah. I kind of, hijacked it there. What are your favorite cartoons from back in the day that you remember?
Oh man, I was all in on Nickelodeon Nicktoons, man. I remember coming home from school, like kindergarten, first grade, and I remember the time slots. I think it was 5:30 was Tiny Toons. Then you had 6 o'clock was Doug. 6:30 was Rugrats. And then I think it was Hey Arnold at 7 before Nick at Night. So those are like my shows, man. Like the Rugrats, Doug, Tiny Toons, we're all the little loony, and in this cartoony, we're invading your TV. Oh yeah. And then I loved Hey Arnold. Hey Arnold was my show. Hey Arnold, believe it or not, there was a cliffhanger of an episode on where his parents were. Like, I think the last episode was like 2003, 2004, and it's Arnold finding a map of where his parents were. There was a huge movement on social media to get the creators to bring it back. And I think in like 2018 or 2017, because of the demand of them wondering what happened to his parents, like the creator, I think his name's Craig Bartlett, went to Nickelodeon and pitched a movie, and it's called Hey Arnold the Jungle Movie. Like 15 years later, created a movie out of it that had an ending to it where he found his parents and Arnold and Helga, ended up dating and all that. And it's like,
this
wow,
is
like
Dan McDonald shit. That
dude, it's crazy, man. No, it's crazy, and it was on Nickelodeon and everything. And then of course, Rugrats. Rugrats had been around for 20-something years, to where they had a spinoff of all the babies growing up into teenagers. And
what my favorite moment of all time is on the I guess it's Animaniacs. Tiny Toons, the same thing, right?
Wacko, you can wager
both
This is my favorite right here when they sing this song. When they ask him about the states.
Right then, in the category of the United States, the answer is
The names of all 50 states
Come on, man.
and their capitals.
This is good stuff, right?
Okay.
Do you remember this?
Mm-mm.
What? Are you kidding me?
Here goes. Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Indianapolis, Indiana, and Columbus is the capital of Ohio. There's Montgomery, Alabama, south of Helena, Montana.
How do you
Then
not
there's
know
Denver,
this, bro?
Colorado, and Du Bois,
Man, it's-
I guess it's Animaniacs, so not truly Tiny Toons, but
Yeah, they're both Warner Brothers, I believe.
Yeah,
but
well, whatever.
that and then
That
I
was
was I was like 10 when so like I said, Nicktoons, watch some Cartoon Network, got a little Johnny Bravo, Dexter's Laboratory in there, you know.
Laboratory, by the way.
Laboratory, Dexter's Laboratory. And then I think I was like 9 or 10 when SpongeBob came out, and I watched a little bit of that. And what's funny about SpongeBob is there's some like dark humor in there for adults that you kind of catch every once in a while.
Now. Yeah.
You catch it now, but I mean, not to say I haven't watched SpongeBob in years, but it's crazy because I think SpongeBob just broke an all-time record for the longest-running cartoon show in TV history. I think they're
that's
still
The Simpsons, bro.
Well, no, okay,
Gotta be
so
The Simpsons.
it must have been kids
gotta
cartoons.
be, yeah,
yeah, because
yeah.
they're at 26 years. Yeah, The Simpsons. You're right. No, The Simpsons is still a thing, but
still they've been going a good time. So
yeah, they've been going since like 1998 or 99, and then Nicktoons, a little bit of Cartoon Network. Got to show my love for a little bit of SpongeBob, and that was really it.
That. Did you watch all that?
I
was
did.
big all that, and you're talking about like adult jokes, and now you go back and watch the Nickelodeon stuff and hear about all that stuff. And
the thing about it was originally created to be like a kid's version of SNL.
Right.
And it's crazy because I know the documentary you're talking about, but they actually had some successful people come out of that show. I mean, Nick Cannon, who else?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Who else was there?
I
There
mean,
was
you can go down
Keenan
the list.
Thompson,
Keenan Thompson,
who
yeah,
went to
Kel.
SNL.
Yeah.
Who went to SNL, Keenan and Kel. It was they went about 10 strong
Crazy.
years. Yeah.
Crazy. All right, Lane, your turn. The youngin of the stream. What were some of your preferred cartoons growing up back in the day?
So me and my brother kind of liked a little bit of both. He was more the Disney kid. I was more the Nickelodeon kid, but like I still watched some of the others. Rocket Power was a good one.
Never heard of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey
I know
Arnold.
Rocket Power. Yeah.
Animaniacs, like you brought up.
Yeah, that was a good one. That song I can't get out of my head now. I'm gonna be singing it.
I want to say it was like the original Scooby-Doo series. I liked a lot of that. And then at my teenage years, into my teenage years, I started watching Family Guy. So,
oh man,
that's where all my humor came from.
You can still watch Family Guy and enjoy it.
Yeah, I do. But yeah,
so like,
those are so fun.
So Rocket Power, that was like early 2000s. No,
and
that
I like
was a
Cat
good
Dog
show.
too.
Yeah, Cat Dog's good. Cat Dog's good. So you watched a lot of Cartoon Network too.
Yeah. Courage the Cowardly Dog. That was a good one that me and my brother both watched.
There's one last thing I want to share with you all before we close this out, because this has gotten so off topic, but I'm having too much fun, man. This is Lanya, brought to you by Eat Lafayette, by the way. So Eat Lafayette, I guess is what I'm saying here, but this is one of my favorites. Not many people remember.
Don't be a stubborn cluck.
From Sesame Street back in the day.
I learned a thing or two from years of
My dog hates this song because of the squeak. But this is the best combination of like 80s celebrities.
John Candy.
Yeah, that's John Candy, by the way. You got to put down the ducky, Jerry. Yeah, put down the ducky.
Put down the ducky.
Put down the ducky. Put down the ducky if you want to play the saxophone.
Wow.
The most ridiculous thing. Gladys Knight and the Pips. I mean, come on, dude.
Put down the ducky.
Put down the ducky, yeah, you gotta leave the duck alone.
Yeah, they really did this. This was so the story behind that is, remember the PBS specials where they asked people to give money? Well, that was it. That was it that night. And they did, I mean, Phil Donahue's on there, and I think Michael Jackson made an appearance, but yeah.
You know what's funny? I remember
These are
my
so
mom.
weird.
So my mom, when she drive me to school, I was like 4 or 5 every day. We had that small Sesame Street cassette with like the typical Sesame Street songs, C is for cookie, and then you had the Oscar the Grouch and Sunny Day. And I remember we wore that tape out so much as a kid. I loved that tape.
I remember the Urban Chipmunks because it was Urban Cowboy, but then the Chipmunks singing Urban Cowboy.
That is hilarious.
Amazing.
It's cool because like having kids now, like I've passed some of that stuff on to my daughter. Now she likes the newer stuff like Moana and Wish and the new stuff. But like sometimes I'll get the OG. I'll play some Sesame Street on there and I'll start singing along to her. And she kind of freaks out like, Daddy, what are you singing? I'm like, it's, sunny days. And, we'd start dancing to it and stuff. But you gotta
we haven't played, as far as I know, we haven't played the Muppets song that we normally play during pitch and changes.
Bohemian Rhapsody?
Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah, we haven't played it. As far as the games that I've been to, we haven't played it.
Do they still do the Lonely Boy?
Yes,
they
did that a couple games ago.
Okay, good.
They do that in the AC/DC chicken, rubber chicken.
Okay. Well, then there are a couple of things, but yeah, we need to get on them to do the definitely.
Well,
Bohemian.
especially apparently we're supposed to be getting a new scoreboard soon, so that would look good on that Jumbotron, right? I mean,
you know what, Jerry, shut your mouth. Don't ruin it, man. Don't ruin it. We don't talk about those things until they're installed.
That is a good point. That is a good point. I don't want to tease anybody, right?
We don't want to
lead anybody on to think we're getting something nice.
Thank you. Boys, Jerry, Lane, any final thoughts before we call it a night? We got way off track, but it was a lot of fun. Appreciate Dan coming on, of course, Coach Trout, but look forward to a good weekend. Jerry, your final thoughts before we depart.
Yeah, it was great joining y'all a little bit later on this episode. You guys, did a great job getting the start. Good job with the interviews.
Holding down the fort, Jerry.
Holding down the fort, baby. Thanks to Dan and thanks to Coach Trout, for coming on. Great interviews. Look forward to this weekend. Just want to let everybody know I don't know what the rain looks like, but Saturday's softball game got moved up to 1:00. So there's going to be some rain. So everybody just be aware.
They're on the road too. So
they are on the road.
Sure.
Well, okay, that's true. They're on the road. I'm sorry. I thought they were at home. Okay, so I know ULM moved their game up this weekend. So there's going to be rain in the area, just FYI.
Saturday, definitely.
Yeah, hopefully it's not what it was where the game gets pushed back like 20 hours, but it is what it is. Hope to see everybody out at the Teague. Big weekend against a good Texas State team. And we'll be there tomorrow night. So, come say hi at the Teague and look forward to a good weekend matchup. And best of luck to the ladies. Hopefully softball gets it done as well.
Lane, final thoughts. What is Texas State? What am I talking about? What does Section A have planned for Texas State this weekend?
So I believe they're cooking Fireman's Delight on Saturday.
What the hell is that?
It's basically a grown-ups what is it? Hamburger Helper. Like better than Hamburger Helper. But
it's more customized.
Yeah,
it's more customized.
I got you. Okay.
But,
I can deal with that.
It'll be fun. But from talking college baseball to Iceland golf to cartoons, we covered it all.
Pee-wee's Playhouse. Yeah. Pee-wee's Playhouse. Josh texted me, he's like off the rails. Yeah, I know. That was on purpose. We had to I had to get that out. I had to share.
Sometimes you need that. Sometimes you need
we
that.
Probably lost every single one of our viewers except my mom, who is no doubt still watching. So this song is for her. Boys, appreciate you joining me tonight. As always, like, share, and subscribe. Final thanks to our fine sponsors, Dr. Brett Venable at Recovery Chiromed, Eat Lafayette Roofing, and the not Dr. Darren Domang, and Ragin' Hydration. Again, we're getting closer to 500 subscribers on YouTube. Please help us out by telling your mama and them to subscribe on there, like and share. For Lane, for Jerry, I am Nick. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. And until next time, as always, go Cajuns.